This is Dennis Palumbo, author of the award-winning Daniel Rinaldi Mysteries, and you're listening to the Dark and Stormy Book Club podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Dark and Stormy Book Club. Today we visit with the author, Anne Clare. Enjoy.
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
Dead and Gondola by Anne Clare. It is the first in the Christie Bookshop Mysteries. It is published by Bantam Books, and it came out in November of 2022. Ellie Christie is thrilled to begin a new chapter. She's recently returned to her tiny Colorado hometown to run her family's historic bookshop with her elder sister Meg and their beloved cat Agatha. Perched in a Swiss-style hamlet, accessible by ski gondola and a twisty mountain road, the Book Chalet is a famed bibliophile destination known for its maze of shelves and relaxing reading lounge. At least until trouble blows in a wintry whiteout. A man is found dead on the gondola, and a rockslide throws the town into lockdown. No one in, no one out. The victim was a mysterious stranger who visited the bookshop. At the time, his only blunders had been disrupting a book club and leaving behind a first edition Agatha Christie novel written under her pseudonym. However, once revealed, the man's identity shocks the town. Motives and secrets swirl like the snow, but when the police narrow in on the sisters' close friends, the Christies have to act. Although the only Agatha in their family tree is their cat, Ellie and Meg know a lot about mysteries and realize they must summon their inner Miss Marple to trek through a blizzard of clues before the killer turns the page to their final chapter. We are pleased to welcome to the program Anne Clare. She has a fun book called Dead and Gondola. Welcome, Anne.
Thanks. Hi. It's nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me.
I love that title so much.
Oh, thank you. I was tickled when I thought of it. I hope people like it.
I read this book, which I enjoyed very much.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I'm a little confused.
Oh.
The town is called Last Word, Colorado, which I love that name. It sounds like half the town is down and half the town is up. And you have to take a gondola to get between.
Yeah.
That's where the name comes from, right?
That's where the title comes from. Yeah. I hope I explained the town well. It's based on a real town here in Colorado. It's actually two towns, so I'm cheating a little bit, as fiction authors do. There's the town of Telluride down below, which is a beautiful old mining town set in the valley. And then there's a newer mountain village up above. And to get between the two, there's this wonderful free gondola that you can take. I just loved it. And when I was riding it with my husband a couple years back, of course, I thought, oh, perfect place for a murder. So that's where it came from.
Palm Springs has something like that. At the base, you're in Palm Springs, and then you take the gondola up, and it's skiing up there. When we used to live in California, we would go for Easter. because they would do an Easter sunrise service
Oh, fun.
at the top. So that requires getting up really early, which I am not a fan of.
That's so beautiful.
It is. In your book, then, do you have to transport goods up to the village on the gondola?
Well, when I was initially thinking of it, I was thinking all fanciful, like, oh, I'd love that. But then somebody mentioned practicalities. There is a road that goes between the two sides too. People can get up by road, but as my characters say, the nicest and the most relaxing way is on this gondola, which you just soar up the mountains over the trees. They don't
That
drive
is
a
very
lot.
cool.
But
I
then
love
you
it.
have a rock slide that blocks off the town, right?
I wanted a little bit, it's not technically a locked room mystery. There's a whole two towns there, right? And you could climb over the rock slide. But I wanted it to be a little bit that they start to think, oh my goodness, the killer is still here with us, that kind of
Yes.
ambiance.
So before we get too far into these questions, could you tell us a little blurb about the book, like an elevator pitch?
Oh gosh, I freeze up in elevators, don't I? Basically, it's about two sisters, Ellie and Meg Christie. And Ellie is the younger sister. She's moved back home after years abroad. And she and her older sister, Meg, are taking over their family's fifth generation bookshop there in Lastwood, Colorado. And Ellie, for all these years, has been traveling the world on these bookish gigs that I think sound wonderful in my mind, like tour guide in Agatha Christie's hometown and bookshops in Paris. But she knows that this has always been her dream job. And so she goes back to work with her sister. And then being a mystery novel, pretty soon she thinks, oh, this is great. Nothing can happen bad in Westford. It's all going to be great when things soon go wrong. And there is a body found in the gondola. I'm not giving that away. It's on the cover. So they use their bookseller skills to try to help solve the case.
But
I
not
love it.
only in the gondola, they're in the gondola behind when he dies.
They see it happen. So they're also these witnesses. They're witnesses, but they didn't
Oh,
see
that's
anything.
cool.
And so they start to think they're obviously not professional detectives. They're amateur sleuths. Well, they've never even been amateur sleuths, but they read a lot of mystery novels, and they start to think, well, what would Agatha Christie do? What would Miss Marple do? How can we get to the bottom of this? And then they feel they have to when some of their friends and acquaintances come under suspicion, and they feel like, well, they have to help solve this.
The first in a series?
It is. I just turned in the second draft of a second book. It's called Last Word to the Wise, using the
Love
town
it.
name.
And who do you publish with?
It is Bantam. They're Penguin Random House.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. So it's considered a cozy mystery?
it is. It has all the fun things I love about cozy mysteries, the amateur sleuth. There's murder, but it's light. You're not going to be kept up with scary images and gore.
Yeah. I write the cozy mysteries also, and I jokingly say I love killing people on the page, but I think cozy mysteries so much more are definitely the justice, definitely the puzzle, but really the community and the main characters, and making sure that people are coming back more than anything for, well, what are they doing now? What shenanigans is Meg getting up to? I need to know, so
Right.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's why I read this whole series. I think I need to know what they do.
Yeah.
So I hope people tune in for the second one too when it comes out.
Well, one thing I have to tell you, you do a wonderful job, is your characters.
Oh, thank you so much.
You have such fun characters. She has a cowboy poet who has a horse, and then she has Agatha C. Christie. C is for cat. She's got Ms. Ridge, Piper Tuttle. She's a good one.
I like her.
And Morgan Moran and Renee Claude. Morgan is a Hollywood legend, as the book says.
Awesome.
One of the things you put in your book, it's just a small little phrase, but I was just so tickled at it. You said her grandmother is marpling.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I
like
love that.
That's adorable.
Listen,
I loved it.
Did you just come up with that on the
Why?
No, I assume other people have done it, honestly, because if I thought of it, then I think.
Take credit for it.
Yeah, I've never heard that used in a book before. That's great. Knitting
Adorable.
and listening. There were a lot of characters. There's a female police chief, and there's the gondolier and the assistant gondolier and this mysterious stranger that gets killed. It's just such a fun story. I'm going to put it down now. Nope. Got to
One
see
more
it.
chapter.
Oh, that's
One
One
sweet.
more
Thank you.
chapter.
Yes.
Anne, are you a plotter or a pantser?
I am now a plotter, and I really have to, because I will still find myself wandering off on other trails. I don't know. How about you, Misty? Do you plot?
I am very proudly a plantser.
Oh,
I plot to a certain extent. If I plot a 12-page synopsis, I have killed the mystery of the story for myself. I do need the pieces because hopefully, as I hope you either are or will, sell on proposal. And that's 3 chapters and a synopsis. I have to be able to at least do that. If I plot out the points that I want to hit and then I pants how that's put together, that
right.
speaks far more to me than trying to plot out every single thing.
I often try to plot out every single thing, and then I'll
Yeah.
think, "Ah, it's not gonna, I
No.
can't get there, or something's missing, or something doesn't feel right." But
Well, I
but I
think
do have to know who did it. I hope I
yes.
do.
Well, and I think sometimes too, if you give yourself too many markers and then you find something fun that you want to do, but it's not already a marker, you might kill that for yourself before you explore it a little because it's not on the plot chart. And I'm like, no, we're going to go ahead and do that anyway. And I'll just bring it back around. So I use my timeline / synopsis to be guardrails. Like when you bowl and they put those
Yeah.
2 things in the side so that your ball does not go in the gutter. That's kind of how I choose to do that.
I like that. Yeah.
There you go. So now you too can be a planter.
Maybe I am a planter.
I think you should. We have to unite and be
Planters
strong
unite.
for the world.
Planters unite.
Yes,
Okay.
planters unite. We'll get t-shirts. It'll be great.
Yeah.
But you do have a lot of strings to this mystery. There's the murder, there's an attack, there's a missing woman, there's the stranger, there's a robbery. There's so many, you have to decide which one you're going to follow first. How do you keep them straight?
Well, I knew there was the murder. And when I was initially thinking of it, I thought, well, they'll acknowledge that they're not going to get involved in the murder, but there's all these other things going on that they think, well, we can solve this while the police solve the murder. But then it all becomes intertwined so that they are involved in the murder.
Yeah, and very well done.
Okay.
Readers like the twistiness like that. They like being
Yes.
led on a trail and then it deviates to another trail, especially if you bring it all together at the end. That was beautiful. Where's the next one? And
Yeah.
that's what you want to do.
I will definitely read the second one.
Great.
Now, when does that come out?
It'll come out about the same time, I think, November of
Okay.
this year now. I'm sort of in denial that it's February. It's a new year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, not just yet. Still kind of think it's 2020 sometimes. Somewhere in there, I've
Yeah.
lost track of the last 2 years. So is this your very first book ever?
My first book was the Santa Fe Cafe Mysteries. It was a culinary cozy series set in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I was Ann Myers. And then I have a bookmobile mystery as Nora Page, which was a lot of fun. It was a senior sleuth again, and she drives a school bus bookmobile in
I
Georgia.
love it.
And so she gets to roll around and think about murder and
As you do.
crime. It was great.
What is your personal background?
Well, it's I have degrees in geography of all things, and
I was
That's not
just
a
going to
bad
ask
thing.
you about that.
oh yeah, miscellaneous things I taught for a while, and I did grant writing and copy editing, and it just kept starting mysteries, and so I decided to finish them, and luckily got a few published there at the beginnings.
That
Well,
is awesome.
geography shows up in every book. Do you think your degree in geography benefits you in some ways for writing mysteries?
I don't know. It makes me nervous about places more so than if I just would make up, oh, there's flowers blooming in Georgia in May. I will get on the internet forever and think, oh my goodness, does this flower bloom in Georgia ever? And so when I thought making stuff up would be easier, but there was still a little bit of me that was thinking, I have to know the weather patterns, or I have to know the distance, and I have to know where it might be.
Although that gives you a sense of authenticity. And for somebody who lives in Georgia, that's not going to take them out of the story. That's the one thing you don't.
It will.
Yeah, because
that's what I worry.
even somebody who maybe isn't from Georgia. Did you just say that you had cherry blossoms in October? Hopefully, most authors would choose to do some research and make sure that where they are. So I write, I live in Pennsylvania, but I also write a series that's set off the coast of California on Catalina Island.
Oh, nice.
This is the very first time I've ever used a real town and named it. And the stress is amazing because I'm like, oh my God, there are people who live in Catalina. And if I put something on a street that they don't know, they might make a hole in the wall across from them with my book. And that will not make anybody happy because they have to patch it up and I don't get read again.
Well, I did Santa Fe, which is obviously a real place that people know very, very well and have strong feelings about. And I thought, well, I can't murder anybody in a beloved landmark, but I have to have them nearby. And it was fun though, because I did know where things were. But like you say, I made up places and thought, well, how can I squish that in? I'll just take over that parking lot or.
Yeah. It can be rough too, because naming the town that I'm in, this town has been here since the 1700s. So even if I name something on the corner and say it's Ritter's Hardware, not always. And in 10 years, maybe it's not anymore. And so I do like fictionalizing certain things just because you have some leeway.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
You guys can speak as writers, but I can speak as a reader. Mom and I used to be a member of a book club here at the local library. And it was a mystery book club. And it was about split half and half of people that cared about details. And some people you could have put that Santa Claus was walking and it was a realistic book. And they would have been okay with that because they were just enjoying the book. But then there's other people that would get out a chart, show you where they're wrong.
See, but you're never going to be able to please everyone. In a cozy mystery, people go in ready to suspend their disbelief anyway. I know personally, if I found a dead body on the side of the road, the last thing I'm thinking is, well, who did it? I need to figure that out. I'm more like, who am I calling? Because if you're still running around out there, I certainly do not want you near my house. If you're going to make it snow in Jamaica, you might want to figure out that might not be best. You're right, Tracy. Some people are like, I have mapped out your entire story and this does not work for me. And I'm like, I get it. I chose to do that. Let me point you towards somebody
and you know
who's
what?
always doing this stuff.
And you're right about something, that when it comes to a cozy, it's not my preferred reading material, but I do enjoy them. And sometimes I need them because I'm in a dark place and I need to be lightened up a little bit. So when I read one of those, I do not give it the intense understanding and deciphering that I would a novel.
Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Did you choose to write cozies or did that just kind of happen?
Did, yeah. And I think what you're saying about cozies, they are feel good. And I think back to the geography thing, I think the town is sort of a character too, isn't it?
Yes,
The place is one of the characters. And I think that's what's special about some cozies. Like you keep coming back to see what's happening at the hardware store, at the Book Chalet or something like that. And so I really like that about cozies. And when I started writing them, I was reading a lot of culinary cozies. I had a stressful job and I would come home and I would read Diane Mott Davidson books and
yes.
And those,
that's okay. I call myself Calgon. So I too have just aged myself. I do think that a lot of people read cozies for the joy in them. I mean, I get that there is a death and hopefully we're not just laughing at it, but for the most part is an element of humor There's an element of community. The setting is its own character. And so that's one of the reasons that I chose to write them also is that structure spoke to me. I love reading intense mysteries or thrillers, but to write one, I would not do well.
Usually in a cozy, the person who gets killed is either a nasty person, a crook. They're not the pillars of society in other books. The bad guy gets killed in cozies most of the time.
You kind of
or the unpleasant person. We don't miss them.
Often so. I think my first book broke that rule, and I didn't realize it's not a rule, but it broke that convention. It took me a few books to realize I'd done that. Yeah, you don't want to kill somebody that's
you killed a nice person.
I did kill a nice person in my first book.
So did I. So did I. Solidarity, Anne.
Oh,
I did not know that you weren't supposed to do that either.
Didn't you break another rule? Didn't you have a little raciness in your
yes. Yeah. My first series is a whole lot of sexy and a very nice person is dead. And they don't die until halfway through the book. People who read them, though, didn't know that either. And so they loved them. And so I was like, hey, then I'm doing whatever I want. But then when I wanted to go into a more traditional route, because that was a very small publisher. And so I write with Kensington now. And I'm like, okay, you're going to have to pull that back just a little bit, not wholly, but definitely a little bit. And, you know, I don't mind straddling the line. And then some people go back and read those and they're like, woo. And I was like, I warned you. I don't know what I am not lying here. There are sexy and I kill nice people. So just keep that in mind.
So there's not a cozy class you have to take before you...
Maybe there should be. Maybe Anne and I should teach. These are the things you don't do. Although if people like it, because there are a lot of people who like the very traditional trajectory of the cozy. But there are people who are willing to wiggle a little bit on that line, as long as it's a good story.
Absolutely.
I think that you can get away with, I guess, if you want to use that in a air quote kind of way, a lot. You need to give them the characters they want, the solution that they need, and then the people to invest in. And it sounds like that's something that you have done with each of the series that you have.
It kind of reminds me of Agatha Christie, and I think that's the vibe you were going for, is the fact that you tried to make your characters memorable. Because I was listening to the names that Mom was saying, and I was like, these are like Christie names.
I wish. They take a lot of inspiration from Christie. Their last name is Christie, Ellie and Meg Christie, and they really wish they were related to her somehow. I have had people say, well, it wouldn't be related to her, it'd be her first husband. But they really wish that they had some Christie connection, but they know her books. So.
Well, they do. They have Agatha Christie right there in the shop.
Do the cat, and I think this is what I love about cozies too. I don't know if you include pets, Misty, but I love the pet character.
Vacuum cleaners.
Yes. Anne will nail me every time on a vacuum cleaner that Tally Graver did not go back for.
Nice.
You just got a new one. You could have somebody who is a relative of Christie come in and convince them that perhaps there is a connection they're unaware of in like a third or fourth book. Yeah. And then
that's why we keep her around.
That's a wonderful idea. Okay, we'll stay after this and talk.
So that's one of the things that I love about cozies too, is that there are a number of things that you can play with. You can play with history, you can play with connections and family and why is this person here? And I think that readers really enjoy going on that journey with us. Do you write in first or third? Is it I or is it she?
I do both. Christie Bookshop Mysteries are in first.
Okay. Is that Meg or Ellie?
It's through Ellie.
Okay.
Ellie's the speaker, and
awesome.
They're kind of a duo sleuths. It's Ellie telling the story. And
okay.
Maybe you should write one from Agatha's perspective.
Wouldn't that be
Wouldn't
fun?
that be an interesting book?
Oh, wouldn't that
you
be
could
sweet?
even do a short.
Yeah.
Like a novella?
Sweet. That would be really sweet. I love Agatha as a character. She's
Yes.
based on one of my cats.
Oh, I love it.
And the horse. I just thought the horse was such a.
Wait a minute, there's a horse?
There's a
Yes.
horse.
A
The
horse
cowboy
is
poet
named.
has a horse.
It's the poet. He's cowboy poet.
Oh,
and he's
that's
got
right.
a horse, and the horse's name.
I gotta read this book.
Calamity Janet. You can't call her Janet though, because she'll bite you.
Oh, they do that. They
Yeah.
do that.
Oh, yes, they do.
Now,
Oh,
in
fun.
Telluride, is there a bookshop in one of the spots that kind of like a book chalet?
Oh, I don't dare say because I can't think of one. There is a bookshop, and now I can't think of its name. I should have this on the top of my head.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is the sort of town where you could, walk around and know everybody. And it's also, cozies can get into some sort of serious issues too. And in this book, the sisters talk about how expensive the town has become. It's towns in Colorado, resort towns anywhere, they just become so expensive. Telluride is just beyond expensive.
There's a bookshop on Colorado Avenue called Between the Covers.
Yes.
There you go.
That's it. Thank
See, we
you.
just
I
let Tracy will look it up for you.
Okay.
She'll give you the stats. And that's interesting. I actually listened to a podcast recently regarding the housing market. I think it was in Vail. And they were talking about, Vail was already expensive, but now they have people being priced out of their apartments because the landlords are aware that they could charge somebody else 6 times that. And so like the restaurants are understaffed because they're living in their cars because they can't afford an apartment. And so for me, when I listen to a podcast or something like that, I have stickies, but I'll write it down and I stick it in a little folder because who knows, maybe there's a book in 2 or 3 books that I'm like, oh, now that would be very fascinating because that could also give you your bad guy. Is somebody buying up all the properties? Somebody else decides to kill them because stop buying all the properties.
Yeah, no, it's a huge real life problem in Colorado.
So do you keep folders of ideas that maybe you'll use later? Or
I do. I keep folders. I keep not me finding them again. I keep a whole
that's
list on my phone, the notes that I put randomly in my phone. If I ever drop my phone and someone finds it, it's just nothing but a note page of like a murder and
Murders.
random
and
things
then I
I've
could kill
observed.
you here, and if I drown you here, that would work really well.
Overheard.
Right.
Yeah.
My husband works for the Department of Defense.
Oh.
And when he got the job, I was like, ooh, so you might just want to warn them that I write mysteries in case they're like going to go scope out any kind of search history. And he was like, really? What are you looking at? I'm like, you don't need to know. I just wanted to let you know that if somebody questions you, make sure you
Is it
tell them I'm
possible to kill somebody with a rubber duck?
I mean, you can make them choke on it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well,
Like it's not all laughs and giggles. Like there are social issues that we discuss, and maybe we do them on a lighter touch. But I've done book clubs before where that's what they want to talk about. And I'm like, all right, what do you think about this or that? Because I really like cozy mysteries because they tend to make people think. Even if you want them for entertainment, you're thinking about who did it. You're thinking about how it was done. And then you're also thinking about the issues, maybe a little more low level, but they're still there.
But I think it gets to more people too. And I think more people can, like those Diane Mott Davison books I used to read. Oh, she did domestic violence, but then there's the catering and the recipes. But I mean, serious issues can get discussed in cozies and they're not so
brutal.
Maybe not as harsh, but you're still thinking of them. You're still
well, because domestic abuse in a thriller is going to be a completely different narrative than domestic abuse in a cozy mystery. They're both very important, but they play a different role. There's just nothing wrong with that.
Well, I think most of the cozies I've read were domestic violence. It's the woman either escapes or the protagonist is trying to help her get away from the abuser.
Right.
And so it's a different angle.
That's a great point.
But it's still there.
That's a wonderful point that I think a lot of in cozies too, it's like these everyday superheroes or heroes or like the everyday individual. They're going to help solve this problem, or they're going to help out this person who's in need. And I think that's great about cozies.
Yeah. Or somebody that's being wrongly accused that is giving up because they can't prove that they weren't there. And so then you're losing the boost like that. No, we're not going down like this. I don't care that I sell books.
Right.
I've read a lot of mysteries. I am channeling my last name right now, and we'll figure it out. Then it gives hope, I think. And, Calgon's commercial was, this is going to take you away. And I have had people who have said, and these are always the ones that I'm like, I wish I would have had this email instead of you being face to face, because I'm about to bawl my eyes out. I survived throat cancer after reading your books. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's beautiful, or they'll say, I was stopped at Malice Domestic once, and the lady was like, are you Misty Simon? I was like, ooh, if it's something good, yes. If it's not, I'll go find her for you. But she's like, I went through throat cancer and read your Ivy Morris series. And I'm like, okay, I just put mascara on. Be nice to me. And like, it helped me laugh every day, even while I was in horrendous pain. She said, and then the other day I was having a really bad day, and I thought, you know what, if Ivy Morris can do this, then so can I. Did I write the book to do that? No, I did not. But I do think that people will read our books and find hope in them and community in them, even if it's not something they have. It allows them to experience that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the friendships, the community, like you say, one of the rules used to be, they'd be in small towns, but now there's cozies in big cities. There's cozies in neighborhoods, and it's about the community and the people. And
well, I think cozies also played a big part in helping people through the pandemic, because they were just clamoring, and we heard it through our emails that give me something light to read. It's too dark out here. They were almost like a medicine for people who were alone.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that Hulu did Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin and Martin Short. They were very popular because something bad was going on, but you knew that there was going to be justice.
Yeah.
You knew, kind of like reading a romance, there's going to be a happily ever after. And you are fine with the journey to get there. The cozy mystery, though, has a little more to do with justice. And I think that there were a lot of people who were feeling a need to see that without it being brutal.
Yes. And are you continuing on with your other series?
Other series, not now. Never say never, right? But there were 3 books each in those, and I'm hoping, I'm on book 2 with this series, so I'm hoping it continues. I really like the characters and I like the setting, and so
I love the characters in this book. You did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
Well, Anne, we thank you for visiting with us. The book was delightful. I'm going to give it to Tracy now so she can read it. She will enjoy it. And we wish you all the best with your writing, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you all. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Trivia. Last week's question was, Greg Hurwitz received the Harvard Undergraduate Scholar Award for what? A. Chess, B. Boxing, C. Pole vault, or D. Croquet? The answer was C. Pole vault. He was the Undergraduate Scholar Athlete of the Year at Harvard for pole vaulting. He also played college soccer in England, where he was a Knox Fellow. This week's question is, author Ellie Griffiths received inspiration for her Ruth Galway series from who? A. Relatives, B. Neighbors, C. Street names, or D. Friends from school. Good luck! Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. We thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us next week. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery. Bye.